My ex tried to expose me. I ruined his life. I am a highly successful digital content creator. I specialize in ultra-realistic cinematic 3D animations. And to protect my peace and my safety from millions of strangers online, I have one absolutely unbreakable rule. I never, ever take off my signature black face mask on camera. My ex-boyfriend, David, was a failed, incredibly bitter tech bro. He was deeply, intensely jealous of my animation studio and the massive audience I had built entirely on my own. When I finally caught him stealing money from my business accounts and kicked him out of my apartment 6 months ago, he was absolutely furious. He screamed, threw his keys at the wall, and swore he would find a way to completely take me down. Last week, he begged to come over while I was out of town, just to pick up his last box of winter clothes. I left the box on the front porch, but my naive landlord actually let him inside my apartment to check the closets. I thought nothing of it. Until Tuesday night. I was in my dark studio, setting up my brand new professional camera equipment, specifically an incredibly expensive Sony A1 camera body, paired with an 85mm lens. I was using it to shoot some incredibly crisp, low-light footage for a new gadget review channel I was launching. I turned all the lights off in my studio to test the camera's massive low-light sensor. Looking through the digital viewfinder, I noticed something completely terrifying. Up in the corner of the ceiling, hidden perfectly inside the plastic grate of my air conditioning vent, was a tiny, glowing, infrared dot. My heart pounded furiously against my ribs. I dragged my heavy desk chair over, climbed up, and pulled the plastic grate down. Resting inside the dusty metal duct was a high-tech, wireless micro webcam. It was wired directly into the ceiling's power supply, and the lens was pointed directly, and perfectly, at my animation desk. David knew I wore my black face mask whenever I filmed my videos. But he also knew that when I was completely alone, working 90-hour weeks in my studio, I took it off to breathe. He had planted a hidden camera to capture my real, unmasked face. He wanted to leak my identity to the internet, destroy my carefully curated brand, and absolutely ruin my life. My blood ran entirely, completely ice cold. Most people would have completely panicked. Most people would have smashed the camera and called the police right then and there. But I am a digital animator. And in the digital world, I am the one who controls the narrative. I didn't smash the camera. Instead, I carefully unplugged its wireless transmitter and wired it directly into my massive liquid-cooled rendering rig. Then, I went to work. I spent the next 48 hours completely hyper-focused. I didn't sleep. I barely ate. I used my Pixar-style software to build a custom, ultra-realistic cinematic 3D animation running in brilliant 8K resolution. I set up a highly complex digital script on my server. I rigged it so that the very next time David tried to log into the camera's live feed, it wouldn't show my real studio. It would broadcast my animation. Fast forward to Thursday afternoon. David had recently landed a very lucrative high-level job at a major corporate tech firm in the city. I knew for a fact he was currently sitting in his fancy glass-walled office, surrounded by his wealthy new coworkers. I sat at my desk, watching my security firewall logs. Suddenly, a remote IP address pinged the camera. David was logging in. I could perfectly picture him, sitting in his expensive ergonomic chair, grinning wickedly at his computer screen. He probably had his finger hovering right over the screenshot button, ready to steal my face and end my entire career. But when the live feed loaded on his monitor, he didn't see my unmasked face. Instead, he saw a hyper-realistic 3D animated version of himself. The animation showed a perfectly rendered David, sitting in a dark, dirty prison cell. Then, a digital version of me stepped out of the heavy shadows. I was wearing my signature black face mask. The digital version of me walked right up to the camera lens, looking directly and intensely into David's eyes. I reached into my digital pocket and held up a highly detailed evidence folder. Written across the folder, in massive, blood-red cinematic text, were the words, "I found your hidden camera, David, and I just forwarded the IP logs, the video files, and the device serial number directly to your company's HR department and the local police." I sat in my dark studio, the blue light of my massive monitor reflecting off my black face mask. I watched my firewall logs and waited. Exactly 4 seconds later, his connection abruptly and violently severed. 5 minutes after that, my cell phone lit up with 12 frantic, terrifying missed calls from his number. I didn't answer a single one. I simply blocked his contact and hit export on my latest video project. David thought he could invade my sanctuary and use my secrets to completely destroy me. But he completely forgot one very important detail. When you try to go to war with a digital artist, you are always going to lose. If you think he deserved that, hit subscribe.